Is there a certain time that you want to be cutting this off by?
Not really.
Okay, cool.
I have a hard time imagining how I can talk for that long, personally, but
Sure.
whatever's good with you, to be honest.
All right, cool. Yeah, 4 hours. Here we go.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. No, if you don't have a hard stop, I imagine this the same. We'll probably like 90 minutes, 2 hours, give or
Yeah, yeah.
take. But it's very conversational, so I just sort of just like to let it go and see what happens.
Okay.
I think I have enough questions for you. We'll probably last at least an hour and a half, I would imagine.
Cool.
And then, as you know, this is no news to you. You know, we can edit anything out. So if you do need to use the bathroom, if you want me to grab a drink, or we need to pause for any reason, just let me know, and we can take a quick break and get right back to it.
Okay.
But what I'll do is
What is that?
this is my better back.
It keeps your hips.
So
Yeah.
I used to wear it for posture, but about 2 weeks ago I was in the gym,
Yeah.
and we and Tyler were deadlifting, and I put a 205 on the bar, which for me is nothing, and I forgot to put my belt on, and I pick up the bar and I go to do my first rep, and I had that moment where I paused and I was like, put your belt on. And then the other side of my brain, the devil,
Yeah.
said, no, you've done 205 a million times. This is light for you. You can get through one set without your belt on. So I go all the way down, plates hit the floor, and as I'm going back up, and right above my butt in my lower back, I just felt, I don't even know what word to use. It wasn't a pop. It wasn't like fiery. It hurt. And I strained a muscle. I dropped the bar, fell over. Tyler almost called, not literally, but I think he was seriously considering calling 911 for a minute because I couldn't get up from the floor. And he was just like, dude, you can't even drive home. Like, you're on the floor and you can't move.
Yeah.
I sort of found this position where I could lay and I wasn't in pain. And then the second I moved a leg, but back, anything, it just flared up. So he helped me to the stretching area. And dude, he's such a good friend. He took his elbow and just fucking dug into it for like a good 12 minutes. And that actually helped a ton to where I was able to stand up, sit down, and we were like, okay, I can drive home and I can get home and do basic functions and be okay.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, I woke up and I was in so much pain. I walked the dog and then drove myself to a urgent care center. And the doctor basically told me I was being a big baby, get some lidocaine pouches, get some icy hot, slap those on it, give it 7 days, do as little movement as possible, and I would be better. So on Sunday, didn't really do anything. Monday, I hit Tyler up and I was like, we're going to the gym. And he's like, no, we're not. And I said, yes, we are. I need to move. Like, I know the doctor said don't move, but I don't listen to doctors. So we went and did like a very light full body workout. And sure enough, by the end of the workout, if my pain was at 100% at the beginning of the workout, it was at like 85% by the end, so it was marginally better. So I was like, we're coming in here every day, we're doing full body workouts, we're gonna go really light, but like I can tell my body wants to move. And I think by Sunday, by sitting and laying down all day, it actually made the problem worse. So fast forward to today, and today is the first day that I haven't put on a lidocaine patch, didn't use any icy hot. Before you got here, I did a bunch of stretches. I saw if my hands could touch my toes, and I'm like 98% better. There's still just a teeny tiny bit of pain, but the better back when I'm sitting for hours of time, dude, it helps so much.
And with the code 10% off, you can save more on Better Back.
Sorry, you did not ask for all that. You simply
No,
asked, what is this? And I gave you a
No, that's
10-minute
good.
story.
Movement is medicine.
Yeah.
I've never seen a product like that before. Like, we used to use, I still have a band in my bag, Elite FTS. It's like a really, really thick stretch band where it's essentially the same thing of where you'd wrap it around your back and put it on your knees. And we used to do it as like a low body warm-up day beforehand of like, put that on and then you'd lay on your back and you essentially do a squat against a wall, not back against the wall, but back on the floor with your legs up against it, and then you just push your knees out, so it would just essentially stretch adductors of the inside, or is it the outside?
I always forget.
I get them mixed up, but you're stretching that. It just helps you get like a more natural hip position as you would for like a squat or even a deadlift. But I've never seen it actually have its own device. We just always use bands. That's cool.
So let me throw this out there that first off, Better Back should be a sponsor because out of the 100 guests that I've had on this show, probably 20 to 30 of them have bought this, and I do deserve a royalty at this point.
Yeah.
With that being said, even though they're not a sponsor, I just bought one of these for a friend for his Christmas gift, and they're running for about $49.99.
Oh, interesting.
Best $50 you could ever spend, even if you don't have any back issues.
Yeah.
I believe in being proactive about stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
so don't start trying to think about your back after it hurts.
Yeah.
Start thinking about it now while it doesn't hurt. So if either yourself or anyone in the audience has $50 extra and you want to invest in your low back, it's so easy to put on. I bring it on flights with me. First time I flew with it, I wasn't
That's
sure if
smart,
they would
yeah.
allow me to,
Yeah.
but they didn't even care. They saw me putting it on, didn't say a thing.
Interesting.
But it's so good for airplanes. It's good for podcasting. Anytime you're about to sit for a couple hours, there's a pillow on the back that pushes into your back. So, dude, it says wear it for 15 minutes 3 times a day. I'm in this thing like 4 hours a day.
Do your do your legs ever fall asleep from being forced in that position?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it gets you sitting, gets your legs in the perfect L shape. I probably should have this a little bit higher. Um, yeah,
I'm sorry to hear about your back.
it's all right.
It's frustrating.
That's what happens to us gym dudes
Yeah.
or gym gals. You know,
Yeah.
When you're throwing around a lot of weight on a consistent basis, and we're getting older, and at some point something's bound to happen.
Word.
Well, let me. I'm gonna leave this whole conversation in there, but before we get too far in, let me read this little bit intro for you, play the music, and have a couple icebreaker, easy questions to get your mind warmed up here. Sound like a game plan?
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Ooh.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode on David's Saturday Night Sit Back. Tonight, sitting back with me, I have Brandon Wells, a local musician who started his musical journey at 13 years old. And you can tune into his music on any and all streaming platforms. And make sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel. Some of his hit singles include Doesn't Mean, I Was Close, Baggage, I'm Not Better Yet, and Crush. When Brandon isn't writing music, he's producing content, video, is growing his photography freelance business. Brandon also started his fitness transformation back in 2010, and with the rise of the fitness industry in recent years, I'm excited to pick his brain on a few aspects of that. Brandon is also the very first guest that moved to Austin from Sacramento, California, my hometown. I can't believe that with the influx of Californians into Texas, it took me 2.5 years to find another soul from Sacramento, yet here we are. Brandon, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to your episode on David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
It's funny, like as I was filling out your pre-podcast questionnaire, and it was like asked for a bio. I'm like, I genuinely don't know how to explain my story. Not that I have anything interesting. It's quite the opposite. But as you're reading that, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a fun person. Because I don't feel that way about myself.
Do you? I'm just gonna go from 0 to 100 here, and I mean we have been talking for 36 minutes already. But do you downplay yourself? Like, do you feel like you don't give yourself enough credit? Because as I was going through your Instagram and I had your music on, I listened to every single song that you have posted publicly. I'll say
Thank
you're
you.
a very talented person.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely love your music. It will be part of my listening from here on out, not
Okay.
just because I feel obligated, but because I actually like your craft. But when I did see your form this morning, when I started putting my notes together, that thought did cross my mind of like, I wonder if he thinks less of himself and doesn't really acknowledge that you do bring a ton to the table with you.
I think it's because all the people that I look to, compared to all the people that I look to up to, I am extremely mediocre at what I do. So I have a hard time ever giving myself credit for anything. Usually when I finish a project, I feel like it's done to the degree that like I'm happy with something. But even still, I don't. I just genuinely don't find it as impressive as the things that influence me. So I just have a hard time thinking that I'm very good at anything. And maybe that's why I don't have an answer.
You're good at talking.
Thank you. I
I've
appreciate that.
enjoyed your company since you walked through the door today. Like, this is my dog, even if he doesn't want to be.
I appreciate that.
Let me ask you just a few looser questions before we go super personal.
Sure.
Are you, if you were to say, would it be fair that one of your favorite fast foods is KFC?
I don't remember the last time I had KFC.
You had a post that all it said was you were lying on the ground staring up the ceiling, and it said something like, does anyone else ever just daydream about a bucket of chicken from KFC?
When did I post that? That
Probably like very early on in your feed, so probably like
Wow.
2014, 2015.
I don't remember that at all. The last time I had KFC was during COVID because it was by my house and it was the only thing that was still open in Austin at the time. Because we were no, it was yeah during the whole snowvid when everything froze here and like there wasn't many restaurants open and it was just like a KFC down the street that was open. That's the last time I had it. But like I don't even remember being a fan of KFC. It might have just been a funny caption.
It could have been.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
That's funny.
I will say I love KFC. I don't eat fast food too often, but dude, I got an air fryer a couple months ago.
Oh yeah.
And here's a hack. If you're
Okay.
leaving the gym and you're starving and you stop by KFC, you eat like the potatoes and gravy on the way home, the biscuits on the way home, and then when you get back home, you throw the chicken in the air fryer just for like a minute or 2 minutes, heats it back up, gets nice and crispy again. Do you own an air fryer?
I have the Ninja convection oven. I think there's an air fryer setting, but I don't think it's a proper air fryer.
You should get one.
I keep hearing that.
I cook everything in it.
Yeah.
I've cooked wings in it. The only thing I haven't done yet is like a steak. I'm a little hesitant to throw a steak in
Sure,
there.
yeah.
But it does a damn good job with chicken wings. What else have I thrown in there? I really like French fries. Whenever I'm cooking a meal, I'll often have French fries aside, so you can throw French fries in there.
Dude, I
Egg
love
rolls.
potatoes so much.
It cooks potatoes real nice.
I love potatoes, and in like any shape or form is like my weakness.
What's your current favorite way to prepare a potato?
I mean, I don't prepare them, but it's hard to go wrong with a French fry. What other ways do we do potatoes?
Hash browns? You shred them and
I
cook
like
them,
hash
right?
browns. To be honest, I don't really ever cook potatoes. I will usually like make the main like bowls of protein per meal, which is just some kind of meat. And then if it's like fries or like hash browns or even diced potatoes, it's either like frozen or like in like the ready-made things at the grocery store. Like I don't cook much.
Does you have a girlfriend, fiance, girlfriend? Does she do a lot of the cooking, or do you guys find yourselves eating out quite a bit?
We have a unique thing where like we met through natural bodybuilding in 2012, and at that time, when you go through a contest prep, you kind of have to fend for yourself with your food, whether that's either you're cooking or tracking, whatever. So like our diets have always been independent of each other, and that's just something that has carried over into life regardless of whether we're competing or not. She hasn't competed since 2013, and the last time I did was 2015, but it's like a habit just based on the way that we see food. And it's sometimes like we'll have like a shared meal that like if I cook it or if it's something that we're like looking forward to making, we'll have the same thing, but most often we're not having the same meal, so we just independently make our own meals. And a lot of the times that doesn't involve a lot of cooking.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you want a Zen?
What's that? What's Zen?
You know what? Let me just put these away. Don't even look at them. They're
Okay.
not here. I'm not going to take you down with
Okay.
me. So I have a funny story. I've never been a nicotine guy. When I
Okay.
first turned 21, there's a few times where me and some friends would go out, and while we were at the bars or the clubs, I would enjoy a cigarette while I was a little buzzed.
Okay.
But never gone to cigarettes. Probably smoked like 2 or 3 cigars a year, usually for special occasions, either seeing some friends I don't see very often, it's Christmas Day, stuff like that. during COVID, one of my vices was hookah. Do you know what that is? So I smoked a lot of hookah in 2020, threw that away because I was like, this is a terrible vice. So been, for the most part, like relatively nicotine free my entire life. Fast forward to last July, and I had 3 of my friends over, brought the futon in here, and they're sitting there, I'm sitting here. We were throwing back some whiskey, having a good time.
Yeah.
One of my friends takes this package of Zins out of his pocket, and eats these the guys, and he pops one in his mouth. And I was like, oh, what's that? He says it's a little nicotine pouch. You just put it in between your gums and your teeth, and it gives you this fun little head rush while you're hanging out. And I was like, give me one of those. I'll try anything.
Yeah.
So he gave me one, and dude, now I got one of every fucking flavor. And I don't take them too much. I'm not justifying the habit. My favorite time to take them is in the morning with my coffee.
Oh,
and then if I'm doing a podcast episode, it helps me just lock in with you even more so than I already am locked in. And then occasionally in the evenings I'll have them.
What's the other brand that's popular of those?
I think it is this one, Velo, Vello.
Okay.
These ones are newer to the market, so right now I think it's sort of funny. Zen sell for about $7.99 a package. Velo's currently going for $1.99 because I think they're trying to get everyone to convert over to them, and then they'll probably hike up their prices any day now. But I think this is the other big brand.
Interesting. That's quite a big price discrepancy.
That's huge. 8 versus 2.
So it makes you wonder how much they're actually cost to make.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, with this thing, it probably costs some pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're selling it for $7.99 for 15. Dude, whoever owns Zen, everyone go buy stock in Zen right now. Do it yesterday.
That's wild.
Yeah. Do you ever do smelling salts?
No.
Do you know what they? I'm a little surprised, being that you're a fitness dude.
Can you explain smelling salts?
So the idea behind them is here. Let me see.
Like a nose twerk?
So essentially, to my knowledge, the 3 main reasons people use them is if you're about to try to hit like a PR in the gym.
Okay.
You open this up and you take a little whiff right before you head into that. A lot of people also use them for waking up. So if they don't want to drink any more coffee, but maybe they're tired, still got a couple hours of work left, they'll take a little hit of it. It's essentially pneumonia. So like Tyler doesn't like them very much. I need to stop referencing that fucker. But he doesn't like them very much because he's like, it smells like piss. I'm like, well, in a way, it is like crystallized piss.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily good for you. Even the bottles say for themselves, you shouldn't take more than 4 hits a day. The reason I own them is because I think the funniest thing in the world is having someone smell them who's never smelled them before and seeing your reaction.
I've done nose twerk before. That's the one that's in the white bottle. And they actually do come in small packets, kind of like your Zyn does. That like Nose Torque was one of like the first brands who did it for a lot of like powerlifters. So like these all look like new brands to me. Like I don't know any of those people. And that one I tried a long time ago, and like I used one that was like had already been like aired out. So like the effects of it were much smaller, but even still then it was like
yeah,
it's not pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't say pleasant is the word associated with it.
Yeah.
It for the audience, if there's someone who's never tried them, for me, what it feels like is it almost feels like a worm crawls up your nose very, very quickly and then hits your brain and your eyes start watering.
Yeah.
And everyone, 100% across the board, when they take them, they always get close to their mouth, and then you see their head just go boop. You know, they're getting away from it.
That's survival
Real
kicking
fast.
in.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, if you want to take a hit at any point during this episode, just let me know.
Thanks. I didn't know they were called smelling salts. Like I thought it was just ammonia tabs. That's why I was like, what is smelling salts?
I wonder what even this says they are. Yeah, this says smelling salts. How do these guys mark this out? These guys also smelling salts.
So hold on, are they like different flavors? Is that why you had different bottles of them?
Well, when I bought these, and these also just say smelling salts engineered for athletes. The reason I bought 3 is because I did not know anything about them. And so
Okay.
when I went on Amazon, I saw all these different brands. And so I chose the three that seemed to be marketing specifically towards athletes. And I was like, I don't know. I can't just buy one. I
Yeah.
mean, look at me, dude. Obviously, I'm a collector. You know, I
Oh
get,
yeah, yeah.
when I venture down something, I need to get a little bit of all of it.
You're a
So
connoisseur.
yeah, yeah,
That's
I'm
it.
a connoisseur of legal drugs.
Do they? So that's the one thing I was wondering about was like, do smelling salts have any sort of? I mean, there's no regulation on them, is there? There's got
In
to
what
be to some
sense?
extent. Like,
Like what they can put in them?
this isn't. I don't think this is would fall under like FDA because it's not technically
Oh,
consumed, right?
you're
Or
right. It probably is not.
so like how much is too much, and like how would any sort of regulation happen with that is the question, because like this can be dangerous.
No, you're wrong.
You know, what do you mean? You're like, no, give me more.
Actually, well, you might know more about it than I do. How could it be dangerous?
Well, it's ammonium, and too much of that is definitely unhealthy for people, right?
I believe so.
I mean, if they recommend don't try it any more than 4 times a day.
Well, even with like cleaning supplies that are heavy in ammonia, don't those bottles even say like you should probably put on a mask before you start spraying this stuff?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't use anything beyond like Pledge, so
If someone is watching, I already know there's going to be at least one negative person who's going to drop in on the comments and be
Okay.
like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't.
I don't know what I'm
We'll
talking about,
admit
yeah.
it before you can comment.
Yeah.
We don't. If there is someone who is listening and you do know the like the pros and the cons to smelling salts, and you would like to comment on whether you're watching it on TikTok, YouTube, wherever, leave us a comment. I'd be curious, and I might even wander down a Google search while I'm in the sauna later today or something.
there it is.
We'll see.
I know some people used to do shots of whiskey before like a lift or something like that, kind of in the same way that smelling salts were, but it's just like if they didn't like the actual like breathing of the salts, they would do a shot of whiskey. I don't see how that's actually as effective just for the amount of time it takes for that to do anything.
Yeah.
But I think it's just more like a mental, like, let me calm myself down or distract myself for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, we dude, one of my favorite chest workouts was I was 19 years old, had just moved out of my parents' place for the first time, living with my buddy Eli, and we both had like 2 or 3 whiskey and cokes, and then he's like, "You want to go to the gym and do a chest workout?" And it's like, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah.
And we got there, dude, and it was an insane workout. Like I could not do that now. Now if I drink, I get very tired. I'm like, all right, bedtime. But back in college when we were young and had healthier livers, dude, we felt huge by the end of the workout. We went for a long time. I think we did like usually do 4 or 5 different workouts for one muscle group. I think we did like 8.
Oh, wow. Did you ever see the video like back in like 2011 maybe of Frank Yang doing the deadlifts? He would take a shot in between his set of deadlifts, and I think he did like 10, and by the end of it he was just like falling over, but like still doing deadlifts. And then there's like the video footage of him walking out of the gym like literally falling over because that many shots was just too much. It's funny, but it's also like, what the heck?
I hadn't heard anything about Ronnie Coleman for a couple years, and then I think sometime in the last 2 or 3 years he made an appearance on Rogan. Did you listen to that episode by chance?
I met Ronnie last year though.
You did?
We filmed him for a documentary for the Iron Culture podcast. Was that last year? 2023? Wow, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this was July 2023.
He's still on crutches.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're good. He 2-arm crutches, hobbled his way in. Still training. It's a thing to see. And like it's the thing that he needs in life, I guess. For himself, not medically he needs.
Right.
But like yeah, he's still going out. He's like they couldn't keep him out of the gym if they wanted to.
That's me, man. I mean, even
Yeah.
I, you know, it's the scariest thing about being injured. I don't know if have you had an injury that. Well, yeah, you had hernia surgery back in 2019.
I've had a few things. The hernia, it was something that's been around for a long time. Like I had it back in high school and I just didn't even know what it was. And then it was just in 2019 I finally had the surgery. After going to the doctor, I was like, this shouldn't be this way, right? And he's like, no.
And how long were you out of the gym, or just bedridden, or sort of recovering from that? Do you recall?
Um, I think it was just the recommended like 6 weeks or something like that for most lifting. But like after that, I want to say that it was within like 2 months that I was like leg pressing again. Um,
And was there a part of you that was sort of going nuts at being forced out of the gym for that duration of time?
a little bit, but I just tried to do as much as I could with like either steps, um, or just some sort of light form of cardio. I don't really remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but it was scary, thinking that like I always felt like my intestines could just explode.
Oh,
Just the
jeez.
pressure of a hernia, like the patch they put in there when you experience like a Valsalva maneuver after the fact. It's like it's kind of scary. There's nothing really that could go wrong, but it's just a mental block. Um, and I adopted that leg press thing. Like before the surgery, I was doing a lot more like barbell squatting, but after the surgery, I just kind of liked the leg press anyway. Um, there's like a certain one that mimics like a Cybex leg press, where they call it a squat press, so it actually like curves.
Okay.
Um, and I go to the Lifetime gym downtown, and their one's called it's a techno gym machine, so like the range of motion is smaller than a Cybex, but either way, doing a leg press on one of those more like swivel presses just always felt better as like a squat movement. So like I haven't let go of that one. Um, I tried getting back into barbell squatting, but like I have some weird like tennis elbow thing from when I had, I think it was like 2017. I was running my last powerlifting block, and I did low bar squatting for a while, and it messed up my elbows. And even to this day, like there's still some kind of nagging things there if I do things that irritate it. Um, I remember in 2013 when I was having like a really good block of some kind of like legs push pull program. I was squatting one day, and then what's the words? I haven't thought about this in a while. Uh, the bottom of my patellar tendon popped on both of my knees,
Ooh, was
and
it painful?
it was like a Charlie horse
Okay.
at the time. Like it didn't feel good. I could walk, but it was kind of like this doesn't feel good. I immediately stopped squatting, and then I went to a leg press, and I'm like, this hurts. Um, and then it was just months and months of like going into the gym thinking like, oh, it's better now, and then I would try to squat, and like I wouldn't feel anything, and then out of nowhere it would like the nerve would come back. It would I After all the digging I was doing, it's similar to like what a lot of kids experience with Osgood-Slaughters, like when you grow too quick and your patellar tendon just has
Mm.
damage where it connects to your tibia. Um, so like because of the negligence of how much I was squatting and not doing any sort of like quad work of like stretching or any sort of releasing, and just overuse of it is what probably made something go wrong. Um, and then having like longer femurs and not having enough glute activation for certain things, it's just like a lot of like forward pitch. And then while trying to do rehab, um, there was more developing sort of tightness above the top of my patella. So like I've adopted like a bunch of different like prehab and post-hab stuff over the years. But those are the main ones, like the knee, the elbows, the hernia. I've had like a weird back thing here and there, but nothing like dire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever try slapping some KT tape on your elbow?
Yeah. I've done KT tape on knees, elbows.
Yeah, I'm wearing it you can't see it, but I got my elbow.
Mm.
I think I don't know if it's would be technically tennis or golfer's elbow, but the pain is like on this side,
Okay.
like right at the joint, and it's still very functional. The KT tape, dude, I can't explain the science behind it, but it's magical because when I don't wear it, like if I forget to put it on and I go to the gym and let's say I'm doing a lat pull down,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm on my first set, so pretty light, I'll feel it act up a little bit. I'm like, oh shit, that's the KT tape on real quick, and then I got some elbow sleeves as well, and I'll throw those on and get through the workout with almost zero pain. But if
Yeah.
the tape's not on there, and I forgot it at home, I almost need to like convert to doing a leg day because that's how beneficial the tape is for whatever this injury is. Yeah, dude, it just helps so much.
I've just kind of adopted the mindset of like, don't do movements that aggravate it. Like I don't need to be barbell squatting, so like the leg press is fine with me. And there's plenty of other things that are just enough stimulus for me to be happy. And to be fair, it's just like I'm just in the gym because I need to be in the gym, like mentally.
Yeah.
So like if something doesn't feel right, I don't have any feelings about it apart from like, oh, I'll just do something else.
Yeah. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah,
Honestly.
and like with the elbows, I don't do any movements that would aggravate the elbows anymore. Like sometimes when I'm doing the leg press, I'll grab the back pad of the thing, kind of like mimicking like a front squat position to like keep a tight upper back, and that makes my elbows a little funky. But I just deal with it. I don't do anything about it. I just move on.
By random chance, have you ever worked out at the Golds in Highland? It's the
A couple
one,
times,
So
Yeah.
you done a leg day there?
maybe. I
So
don't know.
in the back of, you know how it's not in the dumbbell section, but sort of behind it, they have that corner where they put like 15 leg machines in there.
I think so.
In the very back, there's this machine. Never seen it before in my life, and I've been in a lot of gyms. And basically, there's two platforms about this high, and then in between them, there's another one up here. And what you do is you have one foot on the lower platform, put the other foot on the upper platform, and then there's two bars for you to hold so you can sort of balance yourself. And then you're pressing straight down.
Oh, cool.
It works your everything but your calves.
Yeah,
It gets the quads, the glutes, the hamstrings. And we
It's like a
stumbled
split squat kind of.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is by far the best leg machine I've
Yeah.
ever used. I've never seen it. It looked crazy when we first walked up to it. We were like, think this is legs. The other thing is there's not a single sticker on there. You know how most machines say
Yeah.
incline press, flat press. You know, there's no sticker, no instructions, and the most complicated machine I've ever seen. I was like, what are we looking at? So we finally figured out how to use it. Threw 110 pounds on there or something, and as we did 4 or 5 sets, and afterwards we felt just as exhausted as if we just did like 4 or 5 heavy sets of squatting.
Yeah.
And
Is it single leg?
single leg.
Okay.
Dude, it's so fun.
I bet.
Yeah,
Is it name brand or is it just a homemade machine or?
it looks homemade.
Okay.
It's purple.
Yeah.
It's a different color than the rest of the machines in the gym.
Interesting.
It's very unique, and it almost looks like whoever buys equipment for Golds, they maybe like stumbled upon it and they're like, this is weird. Let's get one of them, put it in one of the gyms, and see if people use it or not.
Yeah.
And I've only ever seen one other dude and one other lady on it. Most of the time, it's just sitting there empty. Probably because most people walk up to it, look at it,
Don't
and
know
they're
how
like,
to use it. Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah. Is that your favorite lower machine?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now it is. Since about 3 weeks ago, it is my best friend. Especially since I haven't incorporated squats or deadlifts back in since the injury. This is sort of our new like hardest work machine that we do during our leg workout.
What's your favorite gym that you've been to since you've lived in different places?
I'll give you two for
Okay.
different reasons. My favorite in Austin is Gold's and Bee Cave,
Okay.
but because all my
Oh, that's a good
buddies
one.
go there.
Yeah.
So I sometimes I don't go there because if I only have like an hour and 15 minutes,
Yeah,
I just see too many faces and
Sure.
have too many mini conversations. But that one has a special place in my heart because I see all my people, you know?
Yeah.
In California, did you happen to ever work out at the California Family Fitness off Highway 50 in
Zinfandel.
Zinfandel?
I think so.
That one was my favorite because it's huge
Yeah.
and it's always empty. even
Yeah.
during like prime time, 5:30 p.m., that gym was so freaking big that you
Yeah.
could always do whatever you wanted to do because there's 4 fly machines, 5 hack squats. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Yeah.
But dude, it was so flipping big. I loved that gym. They got a sauna, hot tub, lap
Mm.
pool. So I love doing laps for cardio. I haven't found it. And that's one biggest downside to Gold's. I
Mm.
don't think a single Gold's, to my knowledge, in Austin has a pool that you could do some laps in.
Westlake.
Mm-mm.
Really?
Hasn't been open since the pandemic.
Oh, well, that's why then.
They drained the pool and they turned off the sauna. And even the sauna, I've asked the front desk staff, I'm like, guys, every other Gold has their
Yeah.
sauna turned on. Why haven't you guys turned yours on? And they're
Yeah.
like, corporate won't let us. I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. Every other Gold has their sauna on.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
is this one special?
That
Or not special?
that makes sense because I haven't been to that Gold's since before COVID.
What about you? And what is there any particular gym that comes to mind that's your favorite?
I like Lifetime the most just because they tend to have nicer equipment and like they keep up with the maintenance pretty well. And then there seems to be like a little bit more amenities. The price is pretty astronomical, but I try to just take like I try to justify it as like it's an expense towards your health anyway, so it's worth the pennies or the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
There's a Gold's Gym in Citrus Heights.
Yes.
That's the best gym I've ever trained at.
Why?
I think.
I do love that gym, but why do you like it?
Because even to this day, it still feels like brand new, including all the equipment. It's massive.
Yep.
There's a machine for everything that you could possibly want. And even at the time when they first opened it, there was what's the brand where things move with you on the machines?
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name.
Hoist.
Oh yeah.
So they had a lot of machines there that I've never even tried before that were new to the market. Where like there's a Hoist calf machine, where it's like this is something I've never experienced before, and that was great.
Did you happen to ever go to the what's the gym that's sort of in the Citrus Heights area? It's not Gold's, it's not CalFit, it's not Crunch, it's not Planet, it's not Fitness 19. Do you know which one I'm talking about? There's only one in that area. It's one of the ones where you self-check in. They don't really have a staff. God bless it. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
They have a chest machine in there where it's sort of like an incline bench, but they put a bunch of extra padding in it, so it sort of forces your lats to wrap around it, and you puff your chest out, and it's essentially a fly machine. But most fly machines have you sitting, upright like I am right now.
Yeah.
It was almost like an incline fly machine with some extra padding on it.
That sounds nice.
And it just you feel like a monster when you're on it. Probably because it forces your chest to be puffed out, and who doesn't feel more confident when they're in that position,
Yeah. There was a so I like the Gold's Gym Citrus Heights. There was another one that to this day is still probably my favorite gym just because of the investment of the community I have there, which is the gym. It's called the gym, and it's off Bradshaw and 50. And the owner there's CJ, he's great. And they were in Sacramento, they were like kind of like the central hub for bodybuilding. Like a lot of their machines are homemade. They have some things that are name brand, but a lot of them are just really old. And that one just kind of felt like a more like mom and pop thing. It still kind of feels that way just because it's just CJ owning it. But it's 24-hour access if you have a key card for it. And that one's just a great one. It's cheap. I think it's only like $30 or $40 a month.
I'm looking it up real quick. Is it new by
No,
chance?
it's been there for like 30, 40 years.
Dude, I went to school at Capital Christian.
It's right across the highway.
And
yeah.
I had no idea
It's
that
hard
the
to find.
gym was there.
Yeah, it's hard to find. And you only ever see it if you're driving down 50 on the highway and you look behind the trees and next to all the other like stuff in the business park, and it's just the gym fitness center.
Huh.
It's great. Yeah.
I'm going home in March. Maybe I'll give
There you
them a
go.
visit just
Yeah.
for fun.
It's worth it.
The gym I think about when you mentioned Bradshaw and 50 is that 24-hour. Because
I never had a 24-hour fitness.
Do you know which one I'm talking about though? So this
you know
might
what? It's
jog
on the
your
other side of the
memory.
highway.
It's on the other. It's on the side of Capital Christian, And what they did was they put all the treadmills in the very front, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's just big windows. And so if you're driving on Bradshaw or 15, you pass it, you just see all these people running.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what a great marketing ploy, because that just, it made me want to go work out every time I
Mm-hmm.
drove it. You see, and I'm not a runner either. I never use the treadmill,
Mm-hmm.
but when you drive past it, there's always just a part of me where I was like, I should be at the gym right now.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever been in running?
No,
Have
I'm
not.
all about the Stairmaster or laps. Those are the only two forms of cardio I can sort of wrap my head around.
Man.
What about you?
I got into running during COVID. Um, I think after my last contest prep in 2015, I had this itch to do something with running, whether it was like sprinting, like that was the thing that I was thinking about, but like post school of any sort, there's not really like avenues to do that in terms of like either competitive or recreational. Like it's kind of just an individual thing you do, as far as I know or understand. Um, but in 2020, I started running, and I used to live next to this high school that had like a really nice track. And even to this day, I still run at that track because it's just a good one. Um, I don't know if I want to name it because then
Sure.
it'll get busy.
Leave it unnamed or
Yeah.
name it and I'll bleep it out for us.
But I've started running more and more, and now it's just like the exciting thing for me right now. Whereas like I go through phases of whatever things excite me, even in terms of like activity. Um, it was running at the beginning of the pandemic, but then in 2021, that's when I started doing an adult trampoline class.
An adult trampoline
Yeah,
class.
it's as fun as it sounds. Um, and then more in the last few months, got more serious about running. Got like my first pair of real running shoes a couple months ago, and this year I want to try to log 300 miles, and I'll be happy with that.
So for someone who's not a runner,
Yeah.
there's
I don't even
365
know if I
days
would
in a
call myself a
year.
runner,
So
but I
you
like
essentially need to run less than a mile a day, but I'm assuming that's not how you're going about it.
no because like I'm not someone that has a normal schedule where oh you good
Yep.
where like running at a track um is easy because it's like tracks are at schools, so you have to go either like very early or like late in the day, and most tracks in Austin don't have lights, so like you have to run in the dark. um
Is there
so
sort of a peaceful aspect to that in a
maybe
way?
if you're if you're okay with it. So I'll usually just run on weekends. So I haven't figured out how to divide up those miles into goals,
Yeah.
but like I've just been running for the sake of running and like enjoying it. And like I'm not following like a program. I'm not really aiming to do anything other than just improve my time with whatever distance I decide to run on a certain day, whether that's a mile or two or three.
Yeah.
Um, it was the same thing with trampoline, where it was like I just want to do something for the sake of enjoying it. And like there'll be small goals of things that would make me happy to do, but I think we should just do more things in life that we enjoy for the sake of enjoying it, and not have to turn it into like, how do I compete with this, or how do I turn this into something other than just something that I like,
Yeah.
you know?
So one thing, I'm going to show you one of your own pictures off Instagram in a second.
Okay.
When I reach out to someone, usually I might go like 15, 20 pictures deep.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't do a lot of research because when I DM people, 90% of them don't answer back. So I'm not going to spend 20 minutes researching someone just to decide if I want to invite them or not.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for you, for example, I could tell you were a musician. I love talking to musicians. So I was like, that's enough for me. I'm inviting him on. So then when we set a date and time to record, and I was getting ready yesterday, I go through your entire Instagram page just to see what's in there. And dude, look at this picture of you.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was 2015.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty modest, like in all of your more recent posts, you're fully clothed, you're singing, it's all musical stuff.
Yeah.
So I did, this was unexpected. I was like, this guy's fucking jacked.
Thanks, man.
Holy cow. And then this was another one I wanted to show you as well, is back in 2020, you posted this one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then you had one more, and then I'll ask you the question I'm going to ask you. is this one was also crazy to see, the before and after.
That's me.
And I'll throw these up on YouTube. So if anyone wants to see these, just jump on YouTube, rewind 60 seconds, and you can see them.
Yeah.
So back in 2010, you got some sort of itch to start being healthier, and you joined Planet Fitness. Do you remember in your head at the time what was sort of going through your mind, why you joined, what you wanted out of it?
Not really. Let me think here. At the time, it was like one of my friends was trying to be a personal trainer, so he was trying to build up a clientele. And like I'd always liked physical activities, like as either exercise or just as like an outlet for something. Because before that, I was into skateboarding a lot when I was a kid, and then I grew up doing some kind of sports, like nothing serious. But when I got more into music, there became less physical outlets for me. So like when my friend was like, "Hey, I want to do this personal training thing. Do you want to be my first client?" That's when I did it for like 2 or 3 months before I signed up to Planet Fitness. But once I signed up to Planet Fitness is when it kind of just took on a world of its own by myself.
Yeah.
And I just started falling in love with it. I don't know where to go from there.
And did you do I'm blanking a little bit right now, but did you ever do any kind of competition, whether it's like men's physique, bodybuilding, anything like that?
Yeah. 2012 was the first one I did. That was just like a novice open. I was in Folsom. I was under the federation is the NGA, which is like some drug tested natural competition. And then I waited a couple of years to do 2015. And that season I did 2 shows that year. One was in Phoenix, and that was just open bodybuilding. And then one was in Fresno, and that was also just open bodybuilding.
How'd you do?
The Phoenix one, I got, I can't remember if it was second or third out of 5. And then the Fresno one, there was only 3 in our class, and I got third. That's the thing about natural bodybuilding is there's not really a whole lot of competitors. So the classes are kind of small usually.
Is it because everyone is doing the non-natural?
Maybe, but it's just not that popular of a sport.
That's surprising to me. Well, that's surprising. 2015, 2012, David would have been surprised that there wasn't more natural bodybuilders.
Yeah. There was some waves of it here and there where there was more. But it's still like everyone in the audience is just another competitor, another spectator. It's not like it was 100 years ago.
Why'd you do them?
I just wanted to. Like, a lot of my friends at the time were in the fitness community, and they just they were competing, and I said I want to try it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of habits that have trickled over into my life from competing bodybuilding that I'm grateful for, and yeah, I was going to do it again in 2020, and I was in the middle of prepping for it when COVID happened. I was kind of having some doubts, like, of following through with it because I just stopped caring about competing in it. So in one aspect, I was kind of relieved that everything was stopping. And I don't think I'm going to have the urge to do it again. It's not for the lack of discipline or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. There was a time where like I used to be a photographer for bodybuilding shows, and I shot so many shows that like being in that environment stopped being fun for me. And even like some parts of the community to me to this day are like, I just don't really enjoy it anymore.
Like what?
Like it was more exciting when I got into it because from like 2011 to 2013, 2014 is when I was kind of emerged in like the evidence-based fitness community of like natural bodybuilding, where like YouTube was exploding, and then even Instagram was still in its infancy, and it just felt like it was more of a community. Um, and then within a few years, it felt very like commercialized, and I don't know. The community that I thought I was a part of is what just kind of felt disingenuous at some point. And even to this day, I still feel that way, even more and more over time. So I realized that like competing in it was just not as important to me, and having weight training as an outlet was the more important thing that I just couldn't let go of no matter what, you know.
Yeah. Is steroid usage ever cross your mind?
No.
Why not, do you think?
I never saw a reason to, for one. It's expensive. I don't like the idea personally of having to deal with any sort of needles
Yeah.
or injecting anything in me. Like even when I have to go get my blood drawn and do blood tests, I get freaked out. I don't know. It just never seemed interesting to me.
Yeah. Part of the reason I ask is because there's a bunch of guys I know that are between the ages of like 16 and 24 who have talked to me about doing their first cycle.
Yeah, yeah.
One, I do think it's funny they talk to me because I've never used them in my life, and
Yeah.
I generally don't know much about them. Whereas we have other guys in the gym who have done several cycles, and it's like, well, maybe you should go talk to that guy. You know, if you are actually considering this. But what's crazy to me is when I started working out when I was at 18 years old, and the newbie gains just go like this.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you see your muscle develop so fast. You know, if you're doing 40-pound dumbbell press in your first workout, within a year you're throwing the 80s up.
Yeah.
Like, and so I get it. There's the part of me where I'm like, I know that they want more quicker,
Yeah.
but then at the same time it's like, man, you've been working out for a year and a half, like just enjoy the journey, you
Yeah.
know, like save your money, you know, you're 17, like why don't you see where you can get naturally for like at least 6 more months before you start thinking of using anything past like protein and creatine and aminos and like the basic supplements. But yeah, man, a couple of them are on their first cycle right now, and granted, like they look amazing. But it's just it's wild to me. Like, dude, you're 18 years old. You just finished your first cycle. Like, what are you even talking
Yeah.
about? Like, go skateboard. Go
There's
go
so
play.
many more variables to control as well, to know whether or not. Well, I mean, obviously they're going to be helping you in some way, but like, there was some research a couple years back. I want to say it was sometime around like 2016, maybe, of like, I'm really bad at retelling stories, by the way. But it was some paper that was published that like the effects of anabolics for somebody who literally sits on a couch and does nothing, you grow more muscle than someone who is not on any sort of anabolics, who is actively in the gym and weight training. So it's like the amount of variability that you have to play with to even know A plus B equals C with just any sort of enhancements is like, I am someone who always wants to know the ifs, ands, and whys and how things work, and like to throw in that kind of variability when either your training isn't as optimized as it could be, or like you're not sleeping enough. Like there's so many other things that you need to get right first.
Yeah.
That like you could do all those things wrong and still be on gear and then still get results. But I would just rather be in more control of those other things and be able to see like, okay, I'm not doing this thing right. That's why things aren't working.
Yeah.
Rather than just a shot in the dark, personally.
One of the guys came up to me in the gym the other day and he asked me if I was taking anything.
Yeah.
I was like, what a compliment. It's like the nicest thing like you can say to someone. I remember another dude a couple years ago said it as an insult. And I don't remember exactly what he said. I just remember as a guy at the CalFit in Citrus Heights, we had both been at the gym at the same time, like 50 times probably, so I recognized him, no idea who he was.
Yeah.
And he walked up to me and said something like, what fucking gear are you taking? And I was
Mm.
just like, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah,
He was like, okay, whatever. And I
yeah.
could tell he didn't believe me. And he walked away, and I was like, dude, it's like the best compliment I received all week. It's great. I'm glad I look big enough that people think I might be on a cycle of something. That's wonderful.
It's like the compliment of the natural bodybuilding world of like if you get accused, then it's like, oh, cool, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Um,
Did anyone ever accuse or ask, even ask just out of like a curiosity standpoint, like, dude, tell me your secret. What are you taking?
maybe at some point, but then when you tell everybody your statistics, like your height and weight, they're like, oh, you're not. Yeah,
Yeah.
like in that photo, the 2015 one, like I was maybe 140 pounds.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah,
How tall
that's
are you?
5'9".
Damn.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you're shredded like that, you look bigger.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's like, oh yeah, of course, you're not on drugs.
Yeah.
um, but that's why like I would always like video things too at the time because like on my YouTube, I used to have a fitness YouTube channel. It did relatively well at the time, but like I would do comparisons of like posing throughout the different years. So like I had like a 2012 to 2015, and then I looked the same way in that 2015 video, and then when you compare them side by side and see that like, oh, there isn't that much weight change, it's like this is what natural bodybuilding usually looks like.
Yeah.
um, it's tiny changes over a long period of time.
Um, if you have no thoughts on this and we don't talk about it at all,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine. But there is an insane amount of online coaches now, specifically for personal training.
Yeah, yeah.
I run across them because I tapped on one at some point. Now my Instagram feeds me a million of them, and there's, dude, I don't have a number, but there's got to be hundreds, if not thousands, of dudes
Yeah.
who they're jacked, and on the top of their page, it says Brandon Wells, fitness coach for busy athletes.
Yeah.
DM me if you want to lose 20 pounds and are a working professional.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts around just like um, this sort of wave of just popularity of wanting to be an online coach?
There's probably some positive effects coming from it.
Oh yeah, let me preface this question by saying I don't think it's bad.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It just, until I started the podcast and using Instagram as my main source for finding
Yeah.
people, it was sort of eye opening to me. I was just like, Jesus Christ, like everyone's an online coach now. Like, how are these guys even getting business? There's so many of them. It's like
Yeah.
you have thousands of competitors. Just like gyms do as well. Like we have our choice of Gold's 24, On It, Lift ATX, like so. But it was just something, I don't really have any thoughts around it, even myself. I just thought it was interesting and sort of eye-opening how many people are using that as a way to, make money and help other
Yeah.
people get healthier. And it's just a really interesting concept to me.
I've kind of purged my social media from most fitness things, so I don't see that community as much anymore. But I'm sure that there's a lot of people who get into it and then realize, oh, this is an opportunity for me to help other people and be a coach as well as start my own business. Especially when social media kind of blows up certain niches like natural bodybuilding or even just recreational lifting or powerlifting. I think it's only going to keep expanding as time goes on, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that it surprised me is because, you know how sometimes we can sort of take our own thoughts about something and then project it on the rest of planet Earth?
Sure, yeah.
As you can tell from this podcast, I'm huge about doing things in person.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I was to ever hire a trainer, I would want them with me. Like, we're going to be in the gym together.
Yeah.
I want you correcting every aspect of my form so that I am doing this lift in the most perfect way.
Yeah.
If I have a problem with my elbow, I want you to be there to be able to be like, all right, well, instead of doing bicep curls this way, we're going to modify them this way. So I think for me, I have some empathy is not the right word. I hope these people that are doing online coaches, like, more power to you, because I feel like they're almost doing an uphill battle. Because my thing that I'm projecting is like anyone who's hiring a trainer,
Yeah.
you'd want them to be at the gym with you, right? So if this dude's 3 states away,
Yeah.
and all he's sort of really doing is just providing you meal plans and workout routines, like, that's great. And that's a huge time saver. If
Sure, yeah.
if the gym's foreign to you and you don't know a chest press from a lat pull down, that could be very helpful. But I'm like, don't you want your trainer to be like at the gym with you. I guess
Mm,
not. Maybe people don't need that anymore or want that.
maybe. I mean, I think that's valid. I don't know that I ever actually had any physical instruction apart from like either YouTube videos for form things or in my first few years as when I would have workout partners who were in it as much as I was in terms of like their dedication and or their interest in doing things better. So like beyond that, after the first like 2 or 3 years, I just kind of preferred working out alone.
Are you like that today?
Usually, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't. This is gonna sound horrible, but like form isn't something I really consider anymore. Um, because like when you do something for long enough, it's not even a thought anymore to me. It's like a
Second nature, probably.
yeah, but also like I'm not concerned about it because I don't. I've done it enough to know where like I'm not inherently doing anything wrong, and it's not something that really has to be a thought like once you've dialed it in, I guess. Um, unless something goes wrong, then you realize like, all right, well, I kind of just stop trying in some aspect. Um, but also, if you just do a lot more machines rather than like free weights, it's not something that has to be a huge concern. Like if I'm doing like a tricep push down, like I'm not really worried about form. It's like as long as I feel my triceps, then it's working.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna do something to where it hurts, but then it's just I don't know.
It's funny. My the guy I'm working out with right now. I could go either way. I am
Yeah, yeah.
picky about who I work out with, but when I find a workout buddy whose company I enjoy, I
Mm-hmm.
will go with them 7 days a week.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
that person isn't there, I very much can get a great workout on my own. But my current lifting buddy, I left town for a week for Thanksgiving, and I said, "All right, you can rest a little bit, like Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the day of Black Friday. You take those 3 days off, whatever." I was like, and I told him sort of half serious, half joking,
Mm-hmm.
"I expect you to go to the gym a minimum of 2 times in the week that I'm gone." And he was like, "Okay, okay, I'll go." And I get back to town, get back to Austin, and we're getting our first workout in together. I said, "How many times did you go while I was gone?" I said, "You didn't go, did you?" And he's like, "Of course not. I'm not going if you're not going." And it's funny because then you have people on the opposite side of the boat of you where
Mm-hmm.
he loves the gym and he loves going, but if he doesn't have someone to go with, he's not stepping foot in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he even really could even tell you why. He just, I think he would if he had no one to go with. I think he would get in there. He wouldn't just stop going.
Yeah.
But he just gets so much more out of me being there and seeing him put it the machine on 80 pounds and being like, dude, you and me both know you can do 100. And I think he just sort of needs that external motivation to get a good workout in for one reason or another. Yeah, I don't know, but it just is. It's just times like that where it's so funny to me. I'm like,
Mm.
where if I don't go, he doesn't go.
I might. I could be completely wrong about this, but like I think people will always choose to do the things that make them happy. Um, and that's why like when it comes to exercise in general, the amount of times over the years that people have asked me for help for certain things in regards to like weight training or fitness, it's always just find the thing that you like doing in the gym, or even if it's just recreational activity, because the amount of people that give up after the first week is staggering. Because like it's different when you get into weight training or anything in the gym for health reasons. Like if that is something that scares you enough to take initiative and be proactive about it, great. But for most people, it's more just like, well, I don't like doing it. So then it's like we find something in the gym that you like doing to the point where this you actually want to go do it, regardless of whether there's people with you or not. Um, and that's the challenge because I like weight training and I would do it if it was just myself. And I don't. Some days I don't have a desire to go.
Yeah.
And some days that's fine. Like sometimes I just don't go because it's just not. I'm not feeling it that day. Um, It's not often, but I like doing it and it makes me feel normal. So even if it's there's bigger periods of time where I'm not actually following a program. I'm just cognitive of either exercises or weights that I usually would use, and try to do better. Um, but I don't beat myself up about not going, or um, either falling behind the eight ball in some kind of way, or like if life gets in the way. Um, but yeah, I I wouldn't do it if I hated it.
Yeah.
Like I would rather a bad workout would ruin my day. So if I feel like I'm gonna have a bad workout, I'd rather not go to the gym.
Yeah.
And for most people, it's kind of the other way around. Of like, a bad workout is better than nothing.
Hmm.
Whereas like I would rather not be there, and I would rather do something else with my day.
I know I am there. We are very similar in that.
Mm.
I'm the same way. We're probably less than 10 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a day where it, quote unquote, should be
Yeah.
a gym day.
Yeah.
And I'm just not in the mood.
Yeah.
And I just say, you know what, I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
I've already worked out 40 times this year. And
Yeah.
we're still in January. Like, I can take a day off.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat, man, where for me, it's fun. Like, going back to Bee Cave, I've been going to Highland more because that is the midpoint between where I live and where my lifting buddy lives. But when he's not lifting with me and I go to Bee Cave, I genuinely am so happy to go there because I'm like, who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Who am I going to get to see? I'm going to feel awesome by the time the workout's over. I'm going to feel a pump, whether it's my legs, chest, back, doesn't matter. Hit the sauna for 25 minutes after. I love the sauna. I feel like a new man when I step out of there. I feel very accomplished because 25 minutes in the sauna is very hard. The workout part is easy. That's so easy to do. The sauna is very difficult for me.
Sure.
Not for like the first 10 or 15 minutes. It's those last 5 to 10 where I'm just like, shit, I don't know if I'm gonna make it or not. But then by the time I leave the gym, man, I'm happy. I feel healthier. I want to eat something healthy. I feel like I just feel great. Don't know how else to say it, you know.
That's interesting because like I'm dependent on the gym. Not for the sake of like I'd leave feeling happy. It's more like my baseline. I've reached my baseline of like I needed that.
You said something interesting a minute ago, and I might be reading into something where there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You said by the time you finish working out, you feel normal.
Yeah.
What can you expand on that a little bit?
How do I expand on that? Like without it, I feel like there's still energy in the tank for the day. And or like I haven't had that sort of therapy for my brain for the day. That's why I prefer to work out alone because I just put my headphones on, and sometimes it's music, sometimes it's a podcast, sometimes it's just white noise, and like weight training for me is therapeutic, and I'm someone that like really needs my own solitude in order to feel normal, and that's what the gym has become to me because I train by myself.
Yeah.
And if I don't have that, then either I'm antsy or I don't know how to explain it. I just feel incomplete. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My when I go home, I will try my best to wake up before my family. I'm not a morning lifter normally, but I do just feel the need to go, and so then I'll try to be back home by like 8 o'clock, and maybe they're up or waking up, and they'll be like, "You went to the gym already, didn't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." They're like, "But you're on vacation." Like, I know, but it's for me like it goes back to how it's not work. It is just like just because I'm on vacation for 7 days, I would go nuts if I didn't lift that entire 7 days.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Like some kind of movement at least.
Yeah, and I might only go once or twice. It might not be every day that I'm home in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But I got to get to the Iron Church at least one time.
Yeah.
It's there. We went to Disneyland for Christmas this year, and like I didn't get that itch to go to the gym because we are the type of family where we go to Disneyland so infrequently. We hadn't been for probably like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so we were there the second the park opened. and stayed until the park closed, and we were logging about 30,000 steps
30,
a day.
yeah.
So the gym was the last place I want to be. I was like,
Oh,
give
for
me.
sure.
We would all get back to the hotel, take a shower, and we were out in like 5 minutes of getting through the front door.
Yeah.
So like that trip was a little bit different because we were just moving so much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, on a regular vacation, if I'm just going home and we're just sort of hanging out around the house, cooking food, playing board games, relaxing, enjoying each other's company, somewhere in there, whether it's after they go to bed and it's a late night session, which I also don't like working out at midnight,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's at like 6 a.m. I gotta go move for an hour.
What time of day do you usually go?
In a perfect world, I would go at like 3
Okay.
because it's before the rush, and you got most of the place to yourself.
Yeah.
But normally I end up going around probably 90% of the time I go around 6 p.m.
Okay. Damn, you go in the rush hour.
Unfortunately.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I have a similar lifestyle to you, though. That in the sense that I record when you're free, and so if someone says, yeah, I'll come record. Can we record right after I'm off work? I'll get there at 6. I'm like, sure, and then I'll go at like noon that day because just cause. So I sort of go when I can.
Sure, yeah.
Most of the time.
Interesting. What time do you wake up?
6:30 to 7:30. Today I slept till 8:30. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
My body let me do that. I must have been exhausted. I was exhausted this week. The 100th episode came out, and I really wanted to get 100 ratings on Spotify for the 100th episode. And so on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, between those 3 days, I sent over, I think, 600 phone calls, text messages, DMs.
That's a lot.
Video calls, voice memos. I was just reaching out to people. Each person, if I knew them personally, I was like, what's the best way that I could get them to do this? I'm like, this person really appreciates whenever I send them a voice message. I'll send them a voice message. All right, Brandon really likes phone calls. I'm going to call Brandon, shoot the shit, then I'll ask him for a rating. So we got there. We got to 103. But, dude, by last night, I got home from the gym around 9 p.m., and I could tell it hit me. I was like, I am so fucking tired.
I bet.
But we did it.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot. That's a lot of outreach. Wow.
it was a very busy 3 days.
Yeah. Congrats, man.
Thanks, dude.
That's huge. Shoot.
Music. So got to talk about that for a few
Sure,
minutes
yeah,
while
yeah.
you're here. Can't let a whole episode go by with the musician and not touch on it. What? So you told me on the phone you started playing when you were 13, right?
I think so. I don't really remember what age.
You were young though. Youngish.
Yeah, very
what,
young.
What were you playing at the time?
I got my first guitar when I was in 6th grade, I think. And I was just learning everything I could on guitar tabs online for whatever music I was listening to. At that time, 6th grade is when I started getting into more like modern emo. And it just kind of snowballed eventually because that was also a time when like emo was exploding into like heavier types of music. I got my second guitar. Man, what year would that would have been? Maybe 8th grade, maybe, because I just played it so much that I ended up getting another one at some point.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
One of your favorite posts, you had a picture of yourself wearing a T-shirt that said "Make America Emo Again."
Yeah. I still have it. Yeah.
Did you make that yourself, or did you
No.
find it? Where'd you find that?
That was a band called The Main. I just saw it and I was like, I need to have that. They're like a kind of pop rock emo band that was bigger in the late 2000s. I think they're still around. I think they're still playing music.
I feel like this question is one of like, I almost don't want to ask. I'm like, ugh. They ask this in
Go for it.
every interview whenever there's a musician, but I have to ask.
Yeah.
Was there any influences? Like, did you have anyone that not even influences? Let me rephrase it. Who do you think is your current favorite artist where you just enjoy the shit out of listening to their music? And did you have a different one back when you were younger?
Oh yeah, that changes every week.
That's natural.
Yeah.
Who is it this week?
This last week it's been Dijon. Um, anyone in his circle with like McGee, and Matt Champion. Those are the ones that are currently on repeat right now. But growing up, it was a mixture of things, like a lot of Motown. Um,
Mm.
my mom is from England, so there was like a lot of Britpop. I'm still trying to find ways to merge those into like what I do. I don't know how exactly. It's kind of an odd blend. Um, but yeah, it changes every week. I don't know. It just depends like what I'm either in the mood for or what is newer albums that I'm finding. I'm not very good at like exploring new music. I'm pretty close-minded a lot of the time because like absorbing new things it takes a lot for me to do that.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment to being able to sit and listen to something. I feel the same way about movies. Like I realize that most of my livelihood is behind a camera, but watching new movies for me is like I gotta build myself up to a mood to do it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
get that. Do you
Yeah.
listen to Ben Barnes at all?
I don't know. Oh wait.
He played he was Billy Russo in The Punisher.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you know he's a musician?
I heard his first one or two songs when they came out, but I haven't listened since.
So it's funny you mentioned how you like you're sort of closed-minded because he has, I think, 2 singles and an EP,
Okay.
and I love all 8 songs. They're
Okay.
some of my favorite songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And he just released another EP that I think is like, or no, it's not an EP, it's a full album, and it's only like 45 minutes long, and I haven't listened to it yet because I don't really want to, which doesn't make any sense. But it's almost like, well, what if I don't like it? You know, I like his original EP and the other 2 singles a lot, and I just don't know why I just won't hit play on the damn thing and listen to his new stuff.
What's the most recent thing that you've absorbed that's new in terms of music?
So new to me would be "Stuck" by 30 Seconds to Mars. I don't know who I was listening to, but I was listening to an album, and then you know how on Spotify, once the album's over, it'll start playing music based off things it thinks you'll like.
Yeah.
And "Stuck" came on by 30 Second to Mars, and it just fucking hit me. And I've probably been listening to it once a day for about a month now.
Is that a song or an album?
Song.
So that's the interesting thing is like it's easy for me to absorb new songs because it's only 3 minutes of like okay I'll give this my attention.
Yep.
But an album is like what I gotta sit here for
45
yeah
minutes.
yeah
If you listen to an album, so when I listen to a new album, I like to put it on when I know I can listen to it start to finish in the order that the songs are played.
absolutely
Are you the same way? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah that's the thing that's frustrating about music, the music industry of in the last 10 to 20 years of like things shifting more towards singles and shorter albums. I think most musicians will always side on like longer releases, like full on albums, but like most people's attention is shorter, and it's just easier to get things moving with singles or EPs. But at the heart of it, most fans and most musicians still prefer to do things in albums because like an album you have 30 to 45 minutes to tell more of a story, to guide the listener through something, and it's not just about how do I keep your attention.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's art, you know.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people, not many, maybe 3, 2
Yeah.
for sure, where I don't even know if they've listened to any of the podcast, and they'll slide into my DMs and be like, if you really want your podcast to grow, you should cut the length of all the episodes in half. Like 1 hour or less is the optimal time. And I don't think they're necessarily wrong at all, but at the same time,
It's also
I'm
it's
not
my
going to be
episode.
like, Brandon, oh, right, well, we're at 60 minutes, so we're
Yeah.
done no
Yeah.
matter what we have or haven't talked about yet.
Sure, yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm having fun sitting here talking with you, and I'm not going to cut it off because we're at the quote unquote optimal listening time.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that gives me a lot of hope say what you will about Rogan, whether you love him or hate him.
Mm.
If you go to his YouTube page right now,
Mm.
every episode is minimum 2.5 hours
Mm.
and minimum a couple million views.
Yeah.
And so I think the audience for the show is out there. It is not just necessary. I'm not trying to do what's popular to get as many listens as possible. I want to find the people who enjoy a 2 hour conversation between two dudes about fitness and music to come
Mm.
in and join the party. And if you're not part of that crowd,
Mm.
that's fine. I don't
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mind. Not This is not for everyone. Not everyone is going to enjoy a 2 hour long podcast, and I recognize, but I do think it's funny that those two strangers took the 30 seconds out of their day to be like, "Hey dude, you're fucking up your own show."
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, didn't ask for it. Second of all, like, I think it's just weird when you put art in boxes, or any sort of creative outlet of like having expectations on something, because then it just becomes a watered down version of something else. Um, it makes me sound like such a boomer, but like, I think the with albums and like discovering artists that eventually change the chemistry of your brain. Like, the first time you hear something, you might hate it, and then you hear it 3 more times, and it's like, oh, this is actually my favorite album, because it's something new, and it's something that took a lot more time and patience and effort and exploration to do. So, although it doesn't check any boxes of what a marketer would tell me that it needs to do, it's everything. And that's why the McGee album was so important to what I forget what it's called, like Dream Police or something like that. On a sonic level of like just a kid in a bedroom making music. It breaks all the rules of like how you engineer music and actually record something. It breaks the rules of how it should be like distributed and like how it's he just made it himself. Stylistically, it's different. There's just so much more things to be cherished when you can actually just break the rules and take the time to make something that I don't know, is important to you and that doesn't fit in a box. I'm going on it. I don't even know where I'm talking about at this point. But
That is the essence of podcasting, is
yeah,
going down rabbit holes with not knowing where the end
yeah.
is. Let me ask you this, or go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't think Joe Rogan has a box that he's looking to check when he makes a podcast episode, apart from like, I just want to talk about these things.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I
But somehow people think that like anyone else should have other standards.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there's more podcasts than just his that are very long and growing.
Sure,
Modern
yeah.
Wisdom, Diary of a CEO. There's so many podcasts that have millions of listeners and they go for hours and hours. But one question I wanted to ask you: why music? Why do you do it? What do you get out of it?
It's kind of like the gym where, like melodies and just musical ideas are in my head every day, and I use the voice memo app on my phone every single day to like catalog those ideas. So it's like, even if I wasn't actually publishing music, the ideas that I have about making songs, they'll never stop. Like, I always just record them and capture them, and then eventually like produce them in the songs later on. So it's just not something. I don't know if it's just because I've done it for so long that it's just embedded in my thought process of it's a creative outlet, and like they just come and go. But I can't not do it.
Yeah.
You know.
When you drop an album, what kind of a that like let's say for argument's sake you dropped an album last night, put it
Mm-hmm.
on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere else. What's the 24 hours leading up to releasing it and the 24 hours after releasing it?
Oh, dude, I'm horrible at this stuff. Um, in terms of like marketing or What do you mean?
Um, Let me give it to you this way.
Okay.
When I dropped episode 1 of the podcast, it was on a Saturday, April 1st, 2023,
Okay.
and I remember logging back into the podcast website probably once every 30 minutes to an hour. Like, it was sickening how many times I logged in.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I kept logging in was because every time that first 24 hours, guess how many listens we had to that first episode in the first 24 hours?
I don't know.
0.
Okay.
And I was like, not a single person is listening. Like, the guest didn't listen. He didn't tell any friends. My family's not. I was like, really? 0? Not a single person is tuned in.
Yeah.
And so then if you fast forward to today, I actually don't look at the numbers. One thing I like about the website where the podcast is housed is there's sort of 2 statistic pages. One page is where you can go in and look at how every single episode is performing independently, and I hardly ever go in there. The other page that I find a lot more interesting is the demographics page, where it tells you like it's being streamed in this many cities, this many countries, here's the age groups, here's the, I love the stats, but I don't really want to know how one episode is doing over another, because that's not why I do this. So I guess to sort of re-throw the question back at you is, when I dropped episode 1, I think I had this anticipation of like, not that I was going to be a Rogan with 1 million listeners, but like, I was so excited, right? And I couldn't wait to share it with the world. And then and then no one listens. And I'm like, well, fuck. I guess I have to find some other joy out of podcasting other than the number of downloads I get.
Yeah.
So for you, I guess, do you sort of have any kind of anticipation of like, these 6 songs are so good, I put so much work into them, they're mixed perfectly, I can't wait to put this on Spotify and YouTube and everyone's going to listen to it, and then when those expectations are either hit or not hit, do you go into any kind of like dark place of like, well, fuck, guess no one cares?
Yeah. The baseline of my happiness gets changed as time goes on. Because music making is probably a little bit different in the fact that like the song or the EP or whatever the release is, I've heard thousands of times before I ever actually publish it.
Might even be sick of it a little bit.
Yeah, and then the nature of being an independent artist, maybe even like label, if you're like a major artist, you're done with the music way more ahead of time than the release schedule. Like, most people recommend uploading your music to be released at least 4 weeks in advance. So that has enough time to be distributed to all the platforms. But also, like, if you're submitting like Spotify curation playlist, you have to do that at least 4 weeks in advance. So if an album is done, I would usually do like a 6-week buffer. So by the time it's launch day, it's like the most anticlimactic day of all time. Like, it's not, I don't really feel any different because like I've already finished the project. Mentally, I've probably already moved on, or I'm trying to figure out like how to perform it live, to the point where like sharing and releasing it to me is like, oh, it's that time already. Like, either like making posts or like starting the rounds of talking about it online is like, the schedule is just so misaligned.
Yeah.
From like the time I'm excited about something to the time that it's actually like being shared, there's a massive delay. And like the time that I'm most excited about it is when I'm making it. So like, I have things that probably won't come out for at least 6 months. But I'm most excited about them right now because like I'm in the creative stage of making them. And that's the part of process that I just like the most. So I've just managed expectations with what I expect to get out of something on release day, and so on and so forth. But I mean, that's probably also why I'm not a successful artist.
Don't say. Is that sort of self-deprecating humor and a mix of being serious, or?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think most successful artists, in terms of like, you are able to be an artist full time and people ingest your art as a form of like appreciation and entertainment in some kind of way. Um, Being good at your art is one thing that you have to be good at something, but like a lot of successful people just know how to either have a team that just help you out with it, or they're really good at making people see them as interesting,
Yeah.
um, and or are good at the marketing and are excited about that part of the process, and that's just not me. Um, so that's probably where I've had the hardest time getting over that hill. I don't know. How about you?
How about me? What?
Um, if like, what is the most exciting part of the process then? If you don't look at the numbers at a certain point, like when, uh, how do you manage your expectations, and
S-
like what's the most fulfilling part of the process for you?
So for me, two-part answer.
Yeah.
The my my favorite part is lists.
Okay.
So like right now,
Yeah.
I'm winning. We are
Yeah.
winning. Like this is, I think it's sort of a, um, I think all humans have something about them that makes them a little weird.
Okay.
And so someone might be looking at this and be like, man, this guy just likes to have strangers over to his house and talk
Mm-hmm.
with him for 3 hours. I do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is making my day.
Mm-hmm.
If I could record an episode a day for the rest of my life with where I'm at my current stage in life, I
Mm-hmm.
would totally do that. Even last night, like I saw a dude in the gym, seen him 20 other times. I know nothing about him. I have listened to a few podcasts on profiling, so I by no means am I an expert, but just the way he sort of carries himself through the world, I'm like, I want to talk to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up to him last night. We talked for like 10 or 15 minutes, and the end of it, I asked him if he would come on the show, and he said sure. And so I also really enjoy that of just like approaching a stranger, and just saying, hey, I don't want to interrupt your workout, but could I ask you one question? And usually they say yeah. And then I'll say, if you went on a podcast, what would you want to talk about? And I just love hearing what
Mm-hmm.
people say. And I've had people say like, oh, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
like, I'm like, fair enough. I'm David, by the way, even if we never meet again. They're like, sure, I'm Joe. Have a good workout. All right, see you, man.
Yeah.
The second way that I now gauge success is that I have this belief that every episode is being made for one person. So my hope is that when your episode releases, there could be someone who maybe they've always been thinking about doing this thing, whether
Okay.
it's writing a book, writing their first song. Maybe they have 6 songs, but they don't want to release them because they have some fear of it. And that as they're listening to his chat, maybe when the episode's over, they go on YouTube, they listen to 5 or 6 of your songs, and they're like, man, Brandon did it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to release these 6 songs. I'm going to
Mm.
write the first page of this book I've always wanted to do. But my hope is that somewhere in this conversation, you have shared something that is going to inspire someone to take action over an aspect of their life that, for whether it's fear, analysis paralysis, whatever the reason is,
Yeah. Yeah.
this episode will give them that little nudge they need to go do something. And my ultimate goal is that eventually these people will start reaching out to me, and I'm just waiting for the day where I get a DM from someone that says, dude, I listened to Brandon's episode
Mm.
and I released my EP, and I'm going to screenshot that, I'm going to
Mm.
send it to you, we're both going to be
Hell
fucking
yeah.
excited. And I really do believe I'm going to have this flood of messages one day of people just saying, this episode got me to write the first page of my book, thank you for giving me that nudge. And that's how I am going to ultimately define if this podcast is successful or not.
Okay. That's a good answer. Did you ever follow that one page on Instagram, Humans of New York?
No. Should I?
If you want. I don't know if they're still active or not, but it was a photographer guy. This would have been like 2014, 2015. He like lost his job, and he owned a kind of cheap camera at the time, and he was getting into photography, and his outlet at the time was like, all right, well, I guess I have this time to try to start something new. And while I get better at my photography, I like taking pictures of people. So he'd walk up to strangers on the street, and he had a goal of like, he would talk to 20 people a day. And his question was like, if you were in a room full of people and you could give them a piece of advice based on your own life, what would it be? And he would take their picture and he would put their answer in the caption. And a lot of the times it was like quite an emotional experience, because like when you ask random people that based on their own life, it's always something that more people want to hear. It's very, there's a human touch of it that's a lot really relatable, and the amount of depth that you get from strangers who are willing to do that, like that sort of communication is lost on people, especially in a place like New York where there's so many people,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and that was just I don't know. When you were talking about the gym, it made me think of that.
The question he would ask them, you said, was if you could give someone a piece of advice from your own life, what would it be?
Hmm. Like if you were to talk to a room full of people where you could give them advice based on your life, what would it be?
What's your answer to that question?
I have no idea.
Nothing?
I've thought about it, and I genuinely don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. What would yours be?
Mine would be. I have it. Let me just think about.
Yeah,
I'm not going to try to give the perfect answer. I just want to think about like how I want to frame it.
I'm such a problem with having decision fatigue that I wouldn't know what to land on.
I'll just talk for
Yeah.
a second. I'm going to keep my eye on the clock because this could turn into a 15-minute answer. So to give you a little bit of backstory of my life, I was raised in a Christian home, and we were told, maybe not specifically that like being gay was wrong,
Mm.
but it definitely was like brought up along with like other sins as well. Like, you don't sleep with someone before you get married. You don't steal. Like that's an objectively good one. Don't steal. I'm still on board with that guy.
Yeah.
Um, but growing up as a gay kid in a Christian home and being in the closet was extremely difficult. And I went through most of my teen years. Like I every week in church, I remember like the whole time I would just be there like praying to
Mm.
Jesus that like I would wake up the next morning and find women attractive.
Yeah, yeah.
And I ended up not coming out of the closet until I was 26 years old. And I came out of the closet on Instagram, which I do think that was a good move. I didn't have the courage at the time to have 30 different conversations with 30 different friends and family members. It would have been exhausting. So
Sure,
I
yeah.
still think that was a good move. I still really like what I wrote. At the time, I remember just saying something about like, hey, this is me and this is who I am, and I'm still the exact same person, but this is a secret I've always had,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you guys to know, and I love you all, and I will see you when I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. So I think the piece of advice is that I think that sort of what you just said about your decision making process,
Mm-hmm.
I think that I made it harder and harder to come out because I delayed it till I was 26. I think a
Mm.
lot of people probably come out of the closet a lot younger.
Sure.
And so if I could talk to a room full of people, I would say that where I'm at life now, 37 years old, um, things that I've been the most afraid to do have sometimes been the most fulfilling. Even like going skydiving,
Always, yeah, yeah.
And so I would say that if you are afraid of something, start to explore what action you need to take about that fear and just start moving forward with it.
Yeah.
And if there is like someone who's closeted listening, maybe that's like going to your most trusted friend and just starting with them, being
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, can we keep this between us for now? But at the same time, like, I've never said these words out loud and I
Mm-hmm.
want to say them to you. Or on the flip side, maybe you go tell a stranger. Maybe you're just walking down the street of New York and you're like, hey, you don't know me. I don't know you. We're never going to see each other again. I'm gay, dude. And then just like keep walking.
Yeah.
So I think it would be something along those lines. But if I ever actually did make it to a room full of people, I'd probably work on the messaging a little bit.
I hear you. There's like that's another thing too, is like when you're on the spot, like what's the answer? I have no idea. Especially like I have decision fatigue of like I have to commit to one answer.
Yeah.
Like that's hard. Um I I echo those sentiments, and then also I think there's like canned responses that I can think of, like go outside more often.
Yeah,
That's a big thing.
it's a great one, especially days like today when it's
Yeah.
when yeah, I'm gonna be
Um,
outside today.
uh, Stay curious as much as you can. Like, I think as we get older, we lose a lot of our curiosity and the nature of just exploring things in life. Um, and we lose that desire to play as human beings. Um,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Was there ever something that you were curious about that maybe for one reason or another you wish you had explored and you can't now?
Um,
Whether even if it was just something like getting to know a friend back in Sacramento better, like I'm just curious if there is a route to that answer.
Not off the top of my head. For me, it's more like intertwined with how often I bounce from hobby to hobby, of just being curious about something and then just learning as much as I can. That's usually what I get the most excited about, is like finding something new and um, exploring new hobbies. Like this last year, I think I mentioned it too. It's like I took a sewing class
Yeah.
because I always wanted to learn how to like alter my own clothing, because I've always had a problem going to a store and trying to find something that fits right. And then this year I got obsessed with like denim and like vintage denim, like jeans. And I bought my first pair. I took them to a tailor. I went through like the process of like going through like thrift stores and finding the ones that I like. Um, and then when I took it to the tailor, I turned out I didn't like them because I didn't know what I was doing. um, but I got more interested, and then I was like, okay, well, if the tailor does things a certain way, like how do I learn how to do what they do, um, and to where like I can do it on my own time, I can learn how to do it, and I can do things the way that I want to do it myself. Um, and I think I do that with literally everything in my life, whether it's learning how to sew clothes. Um, in 2020, I lived in a house instead of an apartment for the first time, and our yard sucked, so I learned how to grow a lawn, like grass and everything like that. And that, like, I just have weird.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I have weird things that I just will dive headfirst into, uh, either becoming hobby or just like learning how something works and then practicing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why we probably talked about this on the phone, but since the audience wasn't there and I'm also forgetting, I apologize.
Mm.
How'd you get from Sacramento to Austin?
My girlfriend at the time moved to Sacramento because Sacramento was a big hub for natural bodybuilding in 2013. Um, and the team that we both work at now was like the main hub there. Like we were both athletes, and she moved out there for a bit, but she's from Corpus Christi. So in 2015, we were looking for something new and wanted to get out of Sacramento, and Austin was just like one of the first places we landed on. Um, so we moved out here.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I know you're. Is it still on the table that you guys will probably move again here in the probably in 2025, if not within like the next 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, our it ends in the end of April. Um, and right now we're looking at Los Angeles. It's kind of unfortunate timing with all the fires and things happening.
Yeah.
Like a lot of uncertainty, but it's still the plan. So yeah.
Yeah. Um. Shoot, I had a question for you. It was in regards to something we talked about.
Mm. Is that
That was Thad.
Thad?
Um. This isn't what was going to ask you, but um, it might help the question come back to me. What do you think about Drake?
Oh, I never got into Drake. I never understood it, to be honest.
So you made a let me give everyone some context. In May of 2018, you made a post saying, "I'm trying to figure out why Drake is one of the biggest selling artists of this generation. I personally don't get the hype.
Oh.
Y'all really that bored? Am I missing something?"
Yeah. I wasn't. I don't know. I was just never into Drake. I just didn't get it. And then also this year with like the whole like Kendrick and Drake battles and things like that, I'm kind of happy that I had that predisposition.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about Drake?
I've never if I listened to him, I'm sure I would recognize some of the songs, but I couldn't even tell you the name of
Mm.
one of his albums, one of his songs. I am very much into like country, a little bit of house, a
Mm.
lot of rock and roll, both old rock from like 70s, 80s to some modern bands that are like small bands right now, and I'm hoping they blow up one
Mm-hmm.
day. But like rap and hip hop, if with the exception of Eminem, love Eminem. I just rap has never done anything for me.
Mm.
I have probably 5 songs in my like playlist that are rap, from like I'm gonna tell you couldn't even tell you who, but like I just it's music. It's like we've sort of been circling around it this whole conversation. Is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not everyone is gonna like all songs, and the few times I've listened to Drake, I'm just like I'm good. I'll pass.
Mm. Um, I really like old school hip hop. And the thing that makes me a little bit curious about that is like most modern hip hop is just a lot of bass and treble, and it's not really full of like melodic substance outside of that as much as it used to be. Like from like 80s hip hop and 90s hip hop, like you had a lot more like samples of things. You had a lot more like instrument, almost like full band tracks, backtracks. Whereas like nowadays it's just kick, a snare, and a hi hat, and a vocal and bass maybe. But there's not really like a whole like melodic substance in the middle that you get with all those other genres.
Yeah.
So it's like energy wise, it's completely different. Um, there was a new album. Who was it I heard like a month ago that was really good? Um, I'm blanking on the name, but I'll try to remember it and bring it back up because you might like it.
Yeah, even if you think of it, text me. Can I vent to you about something real quick?
Hit it, yeah.
So 30 you are you familiar with 30 Seconds to Mars?
The older stuff, yeah.
So one of my buddies hits me up 4 months ago and
Mm-hmm.
he says, "Hey, this is 30 Seconds to Mars is going to be in town tonight. Just checked out ticket prices. They're not that expensive. You want to go? You doing anything?" He's like, "Sure, why not? Let's go to a concert." That's why it's like a big reason I moved to Austin is to be like, "Hey, you want to go to comedy tonight?" "Yep, let's go."
Mm-hmm.
Just to do stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we go, and since Stuck is newer, I was thinking my frame of mind was I don't care what else they play as long as somewhere in here they play Stuck. So one of my buddies does a lot of audio AV work, and he texted me and he's like, "Hey, I heard you and Austin are on your way to 30 Seconds to Mars. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I saw the playlist. Stuck is on there, so you'll be happy." I was like, "Thank God! All right, this is gonna be great." So we show up, and the openers play, and then the countdown starts, and 30 Second to Mars gets up, and Jared and his brother get on stage, and everything else was backtracked. They had no other instruments. It was
Interesting.
Jared singing and his brother on the drums. And I'm looking at my buddy Austin, I'm like, "Dude, like, please tell me this isn't where music's trending, because when
Mm.
I go to a show, I want to see whatever instruments are in their music, whether that's
Yeah, yeah.
guitarists, violins."
Especially with a band like 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, dude, the
Yeah.
whole I was like, the instruments are coming out soon, right? And he's like, "I hope so." But dude, it was all backtracks. I was
Ah,
like, come on. Jared
yeah.
Leto, you're rich as fuck. Like, if anyone could afford to have a full band here,
Yeah.
it is you.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate about that within the music community itself, in terms of like musicians and like how they view all about that stuff. Because like it's hard for me. I come from the music that I play is more natively in the pop world, I guess, where like that's not a foreign thing. Um, but it's weird when it kind of shifts a whole industry towards something that it's not normally built on. Um, because like if you go to like an EDM show, that's what you'd expect.
Yes, agreed.
Your expectation has already been set. But when you go to 30 Seconds to Mars, especially when they started out as a full band, and if they don't have instruments doing that live, that I totally understand that in that regard. Um, I'm actually, this might be a side tangent, but like with my own musical YouTube thing, um, something I'm working on right now is a course of teaching other musicians how to perform in the modern day, um, of like using backtracks, using like in-ear monitors, and like just how to navigate all the technology behind it, because it's so hard for either like solo musicians or like bands in their infancy who don't really have money to do it and don't know how to navigate the technology, because it's just a bottomless pit. Um, there is some aspect of like, I understand when bands do have backtracks and have the computer stuff as like a form of like, this is how I can present my music, and if you don't like it, then it's not for you. Um, and there are certain expectations from a listener that are a little bit iffy about like, if you go to a show, yeah, I want to hear a guitar versus not hear it through the speakers as an MP3 file. Um, so like, I kind of see both sides of the story of like, if you don't have the money to hire a band, or if you're not, if you're just a solo artist, or even if you're a band and there's like things in your recordings that you can't replicate live, that's not something that bothers me, especially with how much of the industry has shifted towards using technology as a backbone for things.
Yeah.
Like, their backtracks are probably synced to their light show. It's probably synced
Mm,
to uh, it's probably synced to like certain stage effects that are happening. It's probably synced to the video that gets displayed on the side of the screen. So like, it's central to their whole entire production. It doesn't change the fact that as a listener, you're probably upset about not hearing instruments live. Um, but I think there's caveats in both ways. But I do echo your frustrations when it takes away certain things about the live experience, especially when you know 30 Seconds to Mars has the money to just do it.
right.
Like, there's no getting around that part,
Yeah.
especially when that is what you started out as. Um, I'm not a huge fan personally of Jared Leto, but like, I don't know, maybe they just don't want to have other members on the stage that aren't in the band.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why are you not a fan of Jared Leto?
Um, he's just done some like weird like culty things over the years,
Yeah.
and as time goes more and more, he seems a little bit more full of himself than he has revealed in the past. I don't know.
Could I tell you something that's maybe a little uh I don't think this will be that hot of a take.
Okay, go for it.
Um I do not follow any of my favorite musicians at all because I just want to enjoy their music. And
Respect. Yeah.
so I have also, after that show, someone did ask me, and it wasn't like accusationally, but she's just like, "Oh, I'm surprised you were at a Jared Leto concert." And I was like, "Why?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, "Because," and she said something very similar to you, what
Sure.
you
Yeah.
just did. And I was like, "Well, I didn't know that.
Mm.
I went to hear Stuck.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear Stuck live. Like,
Yeah.
that was my intention." But one question I'll throw at your way
Mm-hmm.
that I've only asked one other person on the show is, um, Michael Jackson was one of his
I was
favorite
just thinking about
musicians.
that. Yeah.
And so my stance is, I can't even think of the name of the song right now, but Michael Jackson's, let's go with Thriller since I'm
Sure.
thinking of it. I love Thriller.
Okay.
It's such a fun song.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what the artist has done,
Yeah.
I will never stop liking Thriller, even if the artist did some heinous things in real life. For you, do you listen? What's your stance on that? Like, if you heard that one of your favorite artists went and like murdered someone, would you be like, well, never listening to that album again?
I think it's different for musicians versus just casual listeners. Not to try to justify how I feel about certain things at all, but like, when you're influenced creatively by something that has been such a um, pivotal part of your DNA. Like, I listened to a lot of Michael Jackson when I was a kid. So like, as a musician and as a creative, there's so many things about Michael Jackson that I just won't be able to remove from myself. Um, and there's been that same thing that happens a lot, especially within like rock music nowadays. Like it's left and right about like accusations and like actual legitimate concerns about certain people. Like, did you ever get into Brand New?
Haven't heard of them.
They're a band from Jersey. Came up in like the emo scene in the late 2000s, early 2000s maybe.
What genre of music?
I guess they call themselves rock, but it was like more. Shoot, at the time, the first album was a little bit more like pop punky, kind of garagey. Um, and as time goes on, they've kind of evolved into more of like a mature kind of rock. I guess it's not like traditional rock, but it's some kind of subgenre of it. Um, and like I think 2018 maybe it came out that the lead singer was sending pictures to underage women,
Mm.
well, girls if they're underage, and that isn't a strange thing to happen in that world, sadly.
Yeah.
But Brand New is another thing where it's like they were so embedded in like my identity as a creative that like it's really hard to separate yourself from the art and the maker of the art. Um, I don't know if I have an opinion on it. Um, Apart from like, I think everybody just has their own perspective on it. Um, yeah, I don't know. The immediate reaction at that point was like, yeah, like I'm boycotting anything that this person does. Um, but it's just so hard to separate what I make from those kind of people. Uh, when it's just something that you've heard your whole life, you know,
Yeah.
and that they've subconsciously taught you in terms of what a sound is. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
I think if you have the money, hire a band.
Yeah.
I'll give a quick shout out to, for a few reasons, to a brand called The Broken View. They
Mm.
are here in Austin, and when this episode releases, they will be playing it. Come and Take It live. I want to say on sometime in the first 10 days in March. So if you live in Austin and you want to come hang out, and if you're still in Austin and
Mm.
you'd like, have you heard of them?
No.
If you would like to come hang out and listen to some music, I love these guys.
Okay.
But the reason I'm shouting them out is because when I went to see them the first time, they have their singer who also does acoustic guitar and piano depending on the song.
Okay.
And then they have another guitarist, a bassist, and a drummer. And I noticed that during the whole concert, the drummer had his laptop with him, and he'd start playing the backtracks at the beginning of every song. And like that, no, as from just a member of the audience. So my opinion doesn't matter that much, but that seemed like a really perfect blend because they had sound effects that they have for just that one song that they're not using in any other song. Like that was a cool blend of how they were using modern day technology while also having a full band there.
Yeah.
And so like, cool, leverage that technology.
Yeah.
And I think that seems like a better middle ground of like, you know,
there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize is happening as well, because like
give us an example or two.
most touring bands have some sort of background production happening, but a lot of the times if it's done well, you don't even actually notice it. Like either they have someone controlling that stuff on the side of the stage or backstage, and they're literally called a playback engineer. So they'll be playing the backtracks, or if there's other production elements that are in the track, like either like bass drops or even maybe there's percussion that you're hearing, but you visibly can't see anything. Sometimes that person is also doing the lighting control. But the idea of like having the technology with a live band has been around for a long time. It's just people either didn't notice it because you have like full bands playing and there's 150 decibels playing at your ears and you're just kind of watching people perform. But it's really not as foreign as people realize it is. It's just more noticeable as time goes on when there's less things performed live. Um, like if you have bass and guitars in your backtracks and there's not a bass on stage, you're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
That's when it's jarring. But yeah, it is a lot more common than most people realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where would you like to see your music go?
I don't know. Um, Ideally, in a world, it's like music is always going to be like the forever thing for me. So, in some world where I could just rely on doing that every day would be great. I don't know what that requires, whether that is doing YouTube or whether music is successful enough to be able to just pay the bills. Um, I've even dabbled with the idea of being something like a playback engineer because they're actually in high demand, um, and it's a field that where like eh, there's a lot of gray areas on how to do it, and there's not as much technicians for it. Um, I don't know, something music related though that I can make a living off of
Yeah.
would make me happy.
I know in your intro, I mentioned your YouTube page, so
Yeah, yeah.
listeners go subscribe to that. And you obviously could follow them on Spotify as well. Do you have anything coming up in 2025 that you want to plug?
Um, I'm working on another EP. I was gonna try to have it done before I leave Austin. Um, I don't know when that's gonna be personally, but like I'm hoping to get it done by then. So it's just sometime in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
But until then, I'm just trying to play as many shows as I can before we leave, and then finish this next EP.
Can I ask you one more question about music?
Hit it.
So I've had a couple different musicians on the show, not a ton, but all of them so far
Okay.
have fallen in one of two camps. And it's so funny because they're two very different extreme examples. One camp is that when they want to write music, they will actually rent an Airbnb for 10 days, 3 states away, and they will go into isolation and they will not leave until an
Yeah.
album is done. On the other camp is the kind where an idea hits them, and they've even said, like, no offense, but if I'm podcasting with you and I get this idea, I will ask for us to pause for 2 minutes so I can put this into a voice memo. And their creativity is always on the go, and the idea of putting yourself in a house for 10 days is insane to them. They're not saying the artist is insane. They're just saying, like, I can't just sit down and write music. It's always on the go. When I'm at the gym, when I'm
Yeah.
with friends at dinner, it just hits me and I got to write it down real
Yeah.
quick. Do you lean towards one of those two camps, or is how do you come up with your music?
It's more of the latter. Um, the gym is the most creative place for me, ironically. So like most like lyric writing happens when I'm in the gym, um, or even just certain melody ideas. Um, I'm not someone who would uh, pause an event to record something, but like if we're like if I'm
Thank you.
grocery shopping, yeah, um, it's got to be in an environment where I'm like mentally comfortable enough to have creative ideas. Sometimes discomfort does cause those moments too, where there's just some kind of flow to make it happen. But it's where I just have to have the space to be able to think, and um, it usually happens in times where I don't expect it. But I'm not someone who can force it really. Like I can sit down and pick up an instrument and like and just command like to not put it down until I at least make something. But I'm not someone who could also rent an Airbnb and say I'm gonna go make an album. Um, but I do well with deadlines.
Mm,
So there is some sort of middle ground of being disciplined with creativity and just making things as an expression. Um, but then there's also times where it's like the creativity it happens when it happens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It does how it like Austin from the Broken View, he would say the same thing where he doesn't always put deadlines on himself, and so like the album they've been working on right now, um, so I love you guys, but they've been working on it for a really long time.
Sure, yeah.
And when we were all hanging out recently, he did say that I don't remember the circumstances, but there was something deadline driven where they just had to get something done by
Yeah,
May 1st. And at first they were panicking because they were like, that's 2 weeks away. And we
Yeah.
never do anything in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they were done with it, they were like, oh, this is some of the best work we've ever done.
Mm.
And it's almost like every now and then I want to remind them, I'm like, maybe you should just put a deadline on this fucker already.
Yeah.
You know, like you seem to work under pressure really, really well as much as you hate the pressure. But
Yeah.
like also, if that forces you to, you know, to just do it,
Yeah.
like maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah. I do find that like the things that came together in the quickest ways are the ones that I like the ideas the most for. So that's when I've gotten better at just making decisions of liking something quicker and moving on and being okay with that and not just floating on the same idea for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thad has rejoined us.
Hey, Thad.
I have a feeling he went and probably messed up. So I have a few qualms with this dog, but one of my only ones is I am one of those people who makes my bed every day.
Mm-hmm.
And logically, it doesn't make any sense because typically by noon, he will go in there, push all the pillows aside, and just ruin my work. And then I make the bed a second time.
Yeah.
Because for me, I love getting into a made bed every night. It
Sure,
just
yeah.
feels so good.
Yeah.
But this little fucker goes and ruins it every day at least once.
That's funny.
Still love him though.
Man. My Thad.
Do you guys have a dog?
We rescued one in, was this 2018 maybe? I think it was 2018. We lived in an apartment at the time, and we rescued one from a shelter in Seguin.
Okay.
We picked that one because it was a high kill shelter.
Mm.
And there's a lot of those in the outside of the major city limits in Texas. And we got one. We had him for like 3 weeks before we realized that we were better as just like a foster parents to them. And we found him a better home with like a local food blogger
Okay.
who was just like jonesing for a partner
Yeah.
to take around to all the different like food places in Austin. It was hard, like emotionally, because we really wanted to take care of him, but it was just like we realized we were not ready for that kind of commitment,
Yeah.
especially in an apartment. 'Cause he was like a 6-month-old puppy,
Yeah.
and it was rough. So I don't know how people have kids either.
Agreed. I have this dog is probably the easiest dog in the world to take care of, and even I struggle with him from
Yeah.
time to time because you do have this. It's not like having a fish,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
where you just gotta drop a couple flakes into the top of the bowl every day.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like if you raise a dog, quote unquote, right, there are a few things that you have to do for that living, breathing creature.
Yeah.
And it does interfere with your schedule. It interferes with your finances. You got to potty train him unless you want your house to smell like piss. And so, yeah, they're not easy, man. And I love them to death. But even I have thought he's 7 right now. And so I hope that at minimum I got another 7 years with them.
Mm-hmm.
But even when the unfortunate day comes that he passes, I do think I might become a cat person.
Mm.
I like having pets around, but I also think as I get older, I'm like, man, I'm getting lazier too.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So and with dogs, you don't know what their personality is. So like
Sure,
when I
yeah.
got him, I was taking a big risk. And if he was this big ball of energy that was running around, knocking cameras over, barking while we're recording, that would be rough. But he is the perfect podcast dog because he does not bark. He has knocked the cameras over once or twice, and that's annoying. But for the most part, he's a great podcast dog because he's just so darn quiet.
He should be like your mascot. A picture of Thad.
He should be.
Yeah, just a big.
Yeah, I should get him in the logo if I ever do a redesign or a rebrand of some sort. Because, yeah, he's here every episode. He's met every guest. He likes to lay at your guys' feet. And if that was the recliner, he'd probably even jump in your... Actually, one person did bring his girlfriend with him, and we spin the recliner around. And as soon as she popped the whatever you call it, the footrest up, he was in her laps within seconds. I was like, "You're okay with this, right?" She's like, "I love dogs. This is making me so happy." And she even fell asleep, and the two of them took a nice long nap while him and I talked. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, man, you didn't think that we were going to talk for close to 3 hours, and then look at us.
Has it really been that long?
It's been 2 hours and 37 minutes.
Holy cow.
Before we wrap things up, two things.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for being here, man.
Of course, yeah.
You could have done anything with your day, and you came here.
Yeah.
Like this has been awesome. Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss that we forgot to bring up?
I don't think so. No.
Can I ask you one closing question?
Okay.
What's your relationship with your birthday like?
I used to hate my birthday.
Why?
Because it makes me sad
Why?
to know that the number goes up, because I'm someone that like obsesses over it makes me sad to like witness time passing, because I just don't want to get older. Not from like a how do I explain it? Not like mentally or physically older, but I just don't ever want to let go of the things that excite me about life when I was a kid. And I think it's just based on like society changes as things get older, and even things like music, like there aren't age limits for things, but at the same time there are. Yeah. So it makes you feel like if you're not getting things done at faster paces, that time is just passing. And birthdays to me are that yearly reminder that time is going on. I think that makes me sad. And it makes me, I realize that as Christmas just passed too, with like putting up the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
It made me realize that, like, wow, just like a birthday, every time this tree comes up, it's the same exact feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about birthdays?
I love them because typically what we do is, like most people do, is a bunch of people get together for a meal, and time, to your point, does go by so quick that sometimes I'm like, damn, it's been 3 months since I hung out with Tommy, but his birthday's next week. Like, that means we're going to see each other. So, I, as far as like my own goes, I do sometimes feel like a little bit narcissistic, being like, hey, it's my birthday. Can we all get together? And actually last year I had a lunch with a couple of friends, and they had no idea it was my birthday. I didn't tell them. I just hit a couple people up, and I was like, hey, can we all make ourselves free for a meal this week? On the flip side of it, there was a part of me when I was driving home where I was like, man, not a single person put together why we were all out here. But then again, like, I was like, is that being narcissistic though, to be like, none of these fuckers wish me happy birthday? Well, if you want them to tell them it's your birthday, then just tell them it's your birthday. So, you know, I did sort of like it, that I in hindsight, now that was 6 months ago, I sort of liked it, and I didn't tell them. I was just like, hey, can we get together for a meal this week? And I'll probably do that again this year. And if someone happens to remember and says happy birthday, that'll make me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Right.
So I'm sort of neutral towards them. The reason I asked was because on your page, you posted on March, I think the first one was on March 17th, and you're like, got the birthday blues again. And then when I got to the one the following year, you posted it on March 15th. And then the following year, you posted it on March 16th. And I was like, wait, when is this guy's damn birthday? Like, Is it the 15th, the 16th, or the 17th?
16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got close, but you
Yeah.
were a little early one year, a little late one year. But in every single post, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you did just sort of allude to having the birthday blues, and that's why I was curious about
Mm.
asking what your relationship was with birthdays.
It's like the whole week leading up to it and the week after are the hard parts. I think it's because like I'm always uh, holding on to certain identities of like my youth, and I feel like if I ever stop holding on, time's gonna go faster, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Like I don't want life to just keep speeding up. Um, there's probably some unhealthy parts of that, but I don't know. Usually, like the actual birthday is fine for me, but like turning 30 was a hard one. Um, Mainly because like it's so at some point I didn't think I was ever gonna like I couldn't see past 30 for me. Like I don't know. I just didn't think I'd be around that long. And yeah, I feel like I'm living on borrowed time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm 37 right now, and I'm very glad that I'm doing the podcast because I don't anticipate dying anytime soon.
Mm.
But one of my favorite, I'm not a big quotes person, but one of my favorite ones is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now.
Right now.
And
Yeah.
that's just like, I guess that goes back to what I was saying about like if you're afraid of something, but or even when we were talking about like taking action.
Mm-hmm.
Is like if you've been just do it, just get started. Maybe you don't have all the answers, maybe you don't have all the money, maybe you don't have all the stuff, but like to your point, we're not getting any younger. This is completely off topic, but do you know of the guy who's spending like $2 million a year trying to make himself look younger?
Yeah, I saw
What's
that.
his name?
I don't know his name, but he definitely looks older than he thinks he is.
Yeah, we looked him up just briefly for like 2 minutes in between sets at the gym the other day, and the question I was sort of asking myself is like, let's say I was a millionaire or a billionaire and money didn't really matter. Like, I'm still processing my own thoughts, and
Yeah.
they're not good or bad. I'm not judging the guy. I'm not hating the guy. I'm not in love with the guy. I'm not inspired by the guy. It just was like, I think it's more so that, here we are in 2025, and it's just such an insane world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was a kid, the only thing we thought about was, having Nerf gun battles and
Mm-hmm.
playing basketball and going to the store because a new CD came out from our favorite band. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember when you had to go to a store,
Yeah.
buy the CD, and you'd be looking at the album work on the way home, and then you
Yeah.
unwrap it and you pop in the CD player and you're jamming out to it for 45 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm very grateful to be alive. But I do, when I think about my own childhood,
Mm-hmm.
there was just those little things like going to the store and buying your CD where I sort of miss those days a little
The
bit.
air was different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we got Spotify. No, I'm kidding.
There's
kidding.
so many different tangents of that I could go down because it's just while it's been great for consumers, it's been horrible for artists,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, even one thing I didn't realize was that I finally caved, and probably it was since I've been in Texas, but I started paying for YouTube because I just got so sick of the ads.
it's so much better when it's paid, right?
It's so much better.
Like even just like watching on
So
your phone and
much.
be able to close your phone and it you can keep listening.
Yes!
Like that alone is like
Yeah.
a game changer.
But I was telling Austin, I was like, sometimes when I leave for the gym, I'll turn the Broken View on YouTube just as a way to try to help him out. And he's like, well, that doesn't get us any money since you pay for it, right? And I'm like, dude, that's so sad. He's like, it does help because then you're getting us views, and so like it's not completely unhelpful, but at the same time, as from the band's perspective, now that you're paying for YouTube,
They're not getting
you're not
ad
really
revenue.
supporting any of the bands that you listen to, whether it's us or you or 30 Seconds to Mars or whoever it is. But unfortunately, that was not enough money to incentivize me to stop paying for it. Now that I've tasted the ad free and the ability to
Yeah.
close your phone, like you said,
But you'll still buy a ticket or buy a shirt if you ever.
oh heck yeah!
So I mean, I don't think it's I try to look at it as like it might not be helpful for the actual artist in the immediate sense, but um, the intention of still helping them is still there. It's never malignant. It's never not in the best interest, because like maybe more views or streams on something will help them land in someone else's algorithm and discover
Right.
them. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not. There's a net positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you have fun
When?
today?
Oh yeah, this is great.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Excellent. I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
Well, just a plug to all artists, then, go keep supporting your bands. I don't know if this is true for all bands, but I do know, like, with the Broken View, they did tell me their biggest revenue stream is merch sales. The tickets, they
Interesting.
said, sort of cover the cost of the tours, so
Yeah.
they break even. But most of their money they get from the hoodies, the CDs, and all the other stuff that they're buying. So I just bring that up to say, if you go to a concert this year, buy some merch while you're there.
Buy some
Helps
merch.
out more than you know.
Yeah. I don't have any merch made. I should do that.
You should.
Yeah.
Get your face on some stuff. All right, man. Well, let's get you out of here. To the audience, real quick, thank you, as always, so much for being here. If you enjoyed today's episode and you have not done this yet, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify today, give us a 5-star rating on that platform. And if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, you can not only leave a 5-star rating, but you can also leave a written review. So if you wanted to say something to Brandon, to him specifically, I'm more than happy to screenshot that and send it over to him. Or if you just want to talk about how you enjoy the podcast in general, that would be great as well. But my promise to you guys is that if you'll do this small favor for me, I will continue to find and bring awesome guests like Brandon on the show for your listening enjoyment. And like we were saying earlier, if there's anything you've been thinking about doing in life that you haven't taken action on for some reason or another, start to put a game plan together for even how you can take like one small step towards taking action over that thing. In the meantime, guys, stay healthy, stay happy, have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.